everybody. We are so happy that you're here today for our APA workshop, APA Citations workshop. We are going to do just 1 minute of housekeeping, meaning we're going to share a little bit of information and then we're going to dive right in because we have a lot of stuff to carry. So, I mean, stuff to carry, but also stuff to cover. So, let me go ahead and just say a word about Library Live as I do that while I share the screen. Okay, hold on 1 second. All right, please throw me an emoji if you can see my slides. You could throw me a thumbs up or happy face in the chat. Okay, very good. So I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, a happy face in the chat. Okay, cool. So we're really happy that you're here today for Library Live. We in Library Live offer different workshops on information literacy skills. We will be sharing the flyer to all of the different workshops that we're going to have for the rest of the semester, spring 2022. Usually they're held every other Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. But if you miss it, don't worry, or if you want to share it with your friends, don't worry, because we record every session and then we upload them to our YouTube channel, Cal State L.A. University Library YouTube, which we're going to post in the chat as well. So let me go ahead and get started by introducing my colleagues and my friends who are going to present the workshop along with me. My name is Leti Terrones. I'm a librarian at Cal State L.A. Under my picture, you'll see the link to our University Library YouTube page. We're also going to share the link to these slides so you can have them for later. We have with us the wonderful Iris Aceves, the lead coordinator for the writing wing at the Center for Academic Success. I encourage you to check out all of the different links that Iris has in her slide, because there's important information in there about how to make a writing appointment and other stuff that is very helpful to students. Okay, we also have the wonderful Jayati Tudrahi. Jayati is an expert librarian here at Cal State LA with many years of service at Cal State LA. She's also listed her office hours there. So you're always welcome to connect with the librarians to seek out an individual research consultation. So I want to go ahead and get started by discussing what we're going to cover today. And as I do that, I encourage you throughout the webinar today that you type in your questions in the chat, or sometimes I'll ask for like a little emoji so that you can give me some feedback about some of the questions you might be having, or if the content is making sense. So keep in mind that this is a sort of like introduction to APA citation. You might have very specific questions about how to cite a specific type of resource. Maybe we might not cover it here. So the best thing to do would be to reach out to me or Jayati, and also to seek out the resources that we list here in the slides so you can find the answer to your specific question. But we hope that by covering the formatting basics, by discussing some of the more popularly cited scholarly sources, discussing paraphrasing, and then talking about RefWorks, a tool you can use to build reference bibliographies, that all of this will give you a good start as you are doing your, starting to work on your papers. All right, so what is APA citation and why use it? So APA stands for American Psychological Association, and this is the professional arm that provides us sort of a standardization for the social sciences and also the hard sciences on how to capture your citations, or how to capture the other research that you're writing about and citing in your text, and then writing a matching bibliography at the end. You've probably have seen this already in some of the journal articles that you are reading for your classes. But the reason why APA citation is good is because it provides evidence that backs up the argument you're trying to make in your paper. It also gives evidence to the person that is reading your paper, it's giving them evidence that you're understanding and synthesizing the information. You're becoming a scholar, and the way you kind of prove it is through the papers and how you cite. And then finally, because you are sort of a research detective when you're writing a paper, you're giving the reader some leads for how to track down the things that you quoted or cited. And so all of these are the reasons why APA is so important, APA citation is so important. The first thing we're going to discuss is the way to format your paper. So in APA, there are 4 different major sections: the title page, the abstract, the main body, that's where your actual writing happens, and then your references. What are the hard sciences? Good. Hard sciences are things like physics. That's what I sort of mean, as compared to the social sciences, which would be, for instance, political science or biochem, etc. Those are like the hard sciences. The soft science, or not the soft sciences, but the social sciences would be things like sociology, anthropology, those sorts of things. So if you're in the College of NSS, you're already engaging a lot with the social sciences. All right, so thank you for that question. So some more basics are listed over here on the right-hand side. It's got to be double spaced. You have to use 12 standard font. For instance, I recommend using Times New Roman instead of using some weird, not weird, but creative font maybe. And you have to have it on 8.5 by 11 size paper. That's just basic regular paper. Okay, I want you to take a look at the title page formatting that's on the right-hand side, and you'll notice that right here it says running head. So keep in mind that every so often, probably like every year or so, the APA, they put out a new sort of up version of the APA manual, that book that you saw on the other slide, and they update the rules of APA. The rules for APA 6th edition, which just got revised, and it's now APA 7. So APA 6 used to have this running head as part of the first page of the title page, and then it would segue into, here's the main body of your paper. It just had it just sort of goes into an abbreviated version of your title page. So in APA 7th edition, they took out this rule. How do you keep up to date with the different rules of how to set up your title page, how to do the formatting here, how to do your headings? The best way to do it, I suggest, is to maybe take a picture of this page right here on your phone and go to this website. This is the APA style sort of guide or blog that's online. On this very page, they'll have different tabs that give specific info, like how to set up the formatting for your title page, how to do the line spacing, how to look at, like, download a sample paper so you can kind of match your paper to that paper. These are like the best sources to use, because what they provide you is with the exactly example for how to format your paper. Some other things, though, to kind of keep in mind is that on your reference page, that's the last sort of section of your paper, make sure that you always follow sort of the rules of APA. So for instance, you're going to have, your title, abbreviated title page up here, the page number, then you'll have your references, the word references written in the middle. You'll notice that all of the different people that these researchers cited, they're in alphabetical order. If you have an article like this one that has multiple authors, you would never move the second author over here to the first part in order to make this particular citation, reference citation, in alphabetical order. You always want to keep the order of the authors as they are listed on the article page, the article information page. What you do alphabetize are the lead authors. You see how this is in alphabetical order? You'll notice here that their formatting is 2 spaces, continuous. You'll notice that there's what's called a hanging indent, where you flush the second and third lines into the one, like one tab space, 5 spaces into, so that they distinguish between this article and this article. All of these tiny little details are outlined in the APA manual. So the best thing to do is always to refer to that manual. And in a second, I'm going to also link you to another guide that is really good to use. The point of doing your in-text citation and your reference citations is that you're offering your reader a way to track down the citations that, or the evidence that you're using. So you'll notice that right here in this example paper, the Evans and Stanovich article from 2013, it's listed down here. And that's what you kind of want to maintain always, is you want your in-text citations, which we'll talk about more, how to write those and how to do those. You want them to match your reference citations. So the other thing too to keep in mind, and we're going to discuss this with more detail, is that you will have two different ways of writing your in-text citation. One is called parenthetical, because the author, and if there's a second author, comma followed by the year, is inside the parentheses. That's a parenthetical style. This second sentence says exactly the same thing as this first sentence here. However, the difference is this one is a narrative citation because the writer has put the author, the first, that's one of the names of the author, followed with the word and, followed by the second author, parentheses, year, and put all of that info as part of the narrative of that sentence. And then either one of these would be cited at the end of the page in this way. So let's kind of take a deeper dive. So now here, I'm going to, in a second, drop into the chat the link to this page. The librarians at Cal State L.A. have created an easy APA quick guide for you. This is actually a picture of it. So I'm going to make sure to add that into the chat in a second. And on this guide, it contains some of the most commonly used citation types. Journal and magazine articles, those would be the peer-reviewed articles that you're getting from a peer-reviewed journal. There's also information on how to cite websites. What do you do with a website that doesn't have an actual name, only the title? There's information on this page on how to cite a chapter from a book, how to cite an ebook, how to cite a book. Those are the commonly most used types of citations. Okay, so let's take a look at the peer-reviewed journal articles. So the general format is outlined above. Do you have to follow exactly by the book the format that's listed on the page? Yes, you do. You have to follow this exactly. You'll notice that the author's last name is capitalized, right? Senior, followed by a comma. If this person has a first, well, they're going to have a first name. If they have a second name, you would add it there. In this case, they're only a first name, followed by a period. You don't have to write out the whole name. Followed by a period, followed by a comma. This word, this little ampersand, that's that little sign. That connects your second author, author B, right? That would be Suárez, comma, S, first initial, followed by the year that they wrote this article in parentheses, followed by a period. Now, take a close look at the title. The title, you'll notice that only the first word of the title is capitalized. If the title has a subtitle, meaning like here's the first part, Inside Management Teams, followed by a colon, and then the next part of the title, the subtitle, this first word is also capitalized. Notice that the rest of the words are not capitalized. If there were a proper noun in here, like the word Los Angeles, or the name of a person, or the name of a place, those are proper nouns. Those would be capitalized as well. In this case, it's not needed because there's no proper nouns. All of that is followed by a period, and then British Journal of Management. That's the journal that published this article, and that's in italics, followed by the comma is also in italics. This 18 is the volume number, and if it has an issue number, it would be followed here with a parentheses too. This parentheses, and then whatever issue number that is not italicized, followed by a comma, followed by, this is the page range. This article starts on page 138, hyphen, and it ends on page 153, period. And then the article information also says that it has a digital object identifier, DOI, and so you list it here as a hyperlink. How am I going to memorize all of this information? You don't have to memorize it. All you have to do is follow the guide, okay? So in a second, I'm going to put in the link to that guide and just kind of checking the chat. Yeah, okay, good. So if it doesn't have a DOI, like someone asked that in the question, so we do all of that and then we don't include the DOI. Okay, so oops. So let me go back to this one. I want to give a note about the authors again. So not only are we seeing here alphabetical order, but we're also seeing how the authors, like for instance, Bago and Denise, right? These two authors, they seem to write together. They wrote an article in 2017 and in 2019. The way to order them or the way to handle that sort of situation is to put the first article, the one that was published first, you put that one first, and then you follow the rest of the order. Okay, again, how do I know all of these tiny things? The way to do it is by looking at the quick guide provided for you. And if you can't find the answer in the quick guide, you can also look in the APA manual. Remember that librarians are here to help you as well to figure out, for instance, like how do I cite a YouTube or how do I cite, something else that's sort of like a non-typical source. Here is an online report. Many people in the social sciences also have online reports that they deal with. So when you have an online report, you could have authors that have written this, or sometimes you don't. You have the name of the organization. So for instance, the second example, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I got this from this website and there's no author to it, but I wanna cite this article that they have called People at High Risk of Developing Flu-Related Complications. So the way to handle it is if you don't have an author, just skip to the next element. And that's kind of a general rule for APA. If you don't have an author, you would skip to the next element, which would be the title. Really quickly, when you don't have a date, like this second example here, the way to handle it is by putting N means no, period, D means date, period. Okay, so again, this is an example for how to cite a book. You'll notice that it's slightly different from how to cite a journal article or an online report. In this case, the title is, it follows that convention, right, of lowercase except for the first word of the title or subtitle, followed by a period. This Hang Loose Press, that's the name of the publisher that published this book. Ebooks, we all work with ebooks a lot now. So you want to make sure that if the ebook is providing a DOI, digital object identifier, which is a special ID number, especially just for this book, you want to make sure to include that in there. Okay, so this is another example, how to handle a corporate author, how to handle an anonymous author. And then important here is how to handle a chapter in a book. All of the go-to directions for this are in the guide, which I'm going to add right now again, as I segue over now to Iris Aceves, who's going to talk about paraphrasing.
Thanks, Letty. So what we have here in terms of paraphrasing is very much what Letty has talked about earlier. We want to make sure, you as an author want to make sure that you tell your reader, this is all the research I did in order to write this research paper, in order to write this paper. So we're going to see in the next slide what our working definition of a paraphrase is for this particular presentation. So our working definition is that paraphrasing entails reading the works of others. So you have a topic, so sometimes a topic that you decide and you pick, or sometimes a topic that your professor asks you to pick or decide upon. So you have to read the works of others. Other people have written about this topic. And not just reading, you also have to understand what it is that they're saying. And then once you understand what it is that they're saying, you're going to write that up in your essay. So that's what paraphrasing entails. You're reading, you're comprehending, and you're writing. And we came up with this particular working definition from all of these different places, from the APA manual, from a couple of books, and from the online writing lab, the Purdue online writing lab. So this is where we're coming up with this idea of what is a paraphrase, right? So it's a lot of work. You're reading, you're understanding, and you're actually writing up the information. In the next paragraph, in the next slide, what is it that we're meaning by reading the research, right? Why do we have to do that? So when you're writing a research paper, so one of the examples that Letty showed us a couple of slides ago was about the flu, right? You might know things about the flu. You might have actually personally experienced having the flu. But if you are writing a research paper for public health, you want to acknowledge, and that's what we're going to see in this little paragraph. When you're reading, you want to acknowledge that you know as a writer that other people have written about your topic, and that you're aware that there is information about your topic. So for example, the flu, and that information is available in journals and books and the internet. And and you are putting yourself into this conversation. So you pick a topic like the flu, because maybe you're in public health. By reading the research, you're saying, I know that there's all of this stuff out there, all of this research out there in the world of public health, in the world of biology and epidemiology, all of this stuff for my public health assignment. But you are also going to decide which of the essays, because maybe there's hundreds of essays on the flu or thousands, you're going to decide which ones you're going to use, and then you're going to put yourself into the conversation. So reading isn't just a matter of just, oh, let me get through all of these things. You have to think about why you're choosing what you're choosing, and when you're reading this information, how you're going to integrate that into your writing, into your assignment, into your writing, right? And in the next slide, yes. So in the next slide, let's go ahead and remember, when you're writing up the research, so you're reading all of these essays, you're reading all of this work coming out of coming out of journals, coming off the internet, and you get two different ways of incorporating it into your paper. And like Letty mentioned, you get to go ahead and bring this in as you're writing the sentence through a narrative citation. So we can go ahead and see the first example of a narrative citation. And this comes directly from the information that Letty and the handout that Letty is going to go ahead and link us to. So you can seamlessly integrate this into your paper by writing something like LaRue, which is the author's name and the year 2007, identifies intellectual freedom and patron confidentiality as two key values held historically by libraries, right? So in this way, you've read an entire research paper, you've read an entire article, and the big idea that this author has is that libraries, they're going to protect the privacy of the people who visit libraries, right? And you want to say that in your paper, and this is one of the ways that you can say it, through a narrative citation where you bring the author and the year into the writing that you have, into the sentence. But in order to go ahead and add a little bit of variety, you could go ahead and use this other method that Letty mentioned earlier, which is the parenthetical citation, where you have your sentence, libraries historically value intellectual freedom and patron confidentiality, which is what we have in the narrative citation. But then you put the author's last name, a comma, and the 2007 within the parentheses, and then you have the period at the end, so that you get to have a variety of telling your professor, telling the other people who are going to read your writing assignment that, hey, I went out there and I looked for a lot of the information that other people are using. I looked for all of this information, and I'm now integrating it into my own writing assignment. And you get to do it in two ways. You get to do it through a narrative citation by weaving the author the author's name in your text, or you get to do it through a parenthetical citation, which is by having this information at the end of the sentence, right? So let's go ahead and look at the next paragraph. Sorry, I keep on saying it paragraph. Let's look at the next slide. So we are talking about how you get to weave things in and out, right? So in this latest version of the APA manual, and this comes directly from that, there are different ways of weaving the information about an author so that you don't feel like you're repeating yourself over and over again, right? So if you want to make sure that your professor knows, hey, I'm getting this information from this other source, you could say Kohler 16, 2016, Kohler 2016, quote, Kohler 2016, but that's going to be very repetitive, right? So APA lets you, and it says, here's some ways that you can go ahead and integrate, especially if you're working with the same author and the author, there's only 1 year, so there isn't going to be a lot of confusion for the reader, right? So there are different ways of going ahead and integrating the research that you are reading into your paper, right? With all of the summaries and the paraphrases. So you can have a sentence that says Kohler 2016 experimentally examined this information about journalism. And then the next sentence, you have Kohler provided participants with quotes, right? Here in your references page, you're only going to have one Kohler, and there's only going to be one 2016 article by Kohler. So you can just repeat the name Kohler, right? And then in the third paragraph, we see that we know the pronoun that the author is using, and it's he. And so that's one of the ways that in our third sentence, we can just say he, instead of saying Kohler 2016, Kohler 2016, Kohler 2016, which turns out to be a tongue twister. But of course, you're doing a lot of reading, and you're not just reading one article, because sometimes you have to have a minimum of 5 articles or a minimum of 10 articles. Or sometimes you're working on a really big paper and you have 20 articles that you are working on. And I'll be with you in one quick second, Anna. So you might actually have a sentence that you want to create, and you're going to combine a couple of the articles that you're reading. So we have a nice transition here. So an example here at the very last sentence. So these findings in combination with similar research, right? So here, these findings, this is a reference to all the Kohler 2016 findings in combination with similar research. So now we have at the end a parenthetical citation, because we're still referring to the work of Kohler, but we're bringing in Reginald 2015, right? And these are some of the ways that you can go ahead and start to have a little variety in your writing, in your essay, but you're still acknowledging that you got this information from these particular works, right? And so in the next slide, we're going to go ahead and see that sometimes it's easy for us when we see an example that's coming out of the APA book and we think, oh yeah, I get it. But when we're having to do this work on our own, it becomes a little bit more difficult, right? So I'm going to go ahead and give you 5 strategies, but we're going to go ahead and look at how we can do that first. So here's how to write up your information, your paraphrase, as an example. So here what we have is an original text, and you don't have to read that. So when you're paraphrasing, you're in essence taking a big chunk of information, right? And here we have an example of these 2 long paragraphs. And what you want to do is you want to read these and you want to come up with, well, what are these people trying to tell me, right? What are the authors trying to tell me? So in these 2 big paragraphs, what I did was that I read them and I thought, okay, what are the authors trying to tell me? And then I came up with, what is it that I think they're trying to tell me? and I wrote it up in one sentence. And I wrote it up with a narrative citation format or a parenthetical citation format. So the first thing I have is that Graff and Birkenstein, 2010, argue that the key to good writing is having a handy set of moves to deliver information. That's what I think they're saying. Okay. And so the other way that I can go ahead and write this up is with the exact same words, in the parenthetical citation, the key to good writing is having a handy set of moves to deliver information. And then I put Graff and Birkenstein 2010 at the end, right? So depending on the type of variety that I want in my essay or in my research paper, I can choose a narrative citation or a parenthetical citation. In the next slide, we're actually going to go ahead and see that we have different strategies of doing this, right? So the first strategy is really a summary. So when you have your article, and I'm a little old school, so I print things out and write things on the side. But if you're doing this, with an electronic file, you can do this on. You can still go ahead and make notes on the side with track changes if you're on Microsoft Word or comments if you have a PDF. So one of the strategies is summarize each of the paragraphs, right? So that you read a paragraph, and as you can see on the side, you create a little summary. What do I think the author is trying to tell me, right? So that's one of the strategies in order for you to create a paraphrase. That's one of the strategies. Read the paragraphs or read an entire page and then think, okay, what is the author trying to tell me? And write that information on the side, on the margin, right? So the next strategy we're going to see in the next slide. The next strategy is when you're reading or as you're reading, look at the words that the author is using. And very often the text is really long because they're going to try to explain the same information to you in different ways to make sure that you're going to get it, right? So if you don't get it through one paragraph, you might get it through another paragraph. And by observing the key words, you're going to see, the words various moves, complicated moves, established moves, basic moves. Those things are going to repeat. So when you are reading your own articles, keep in mind that if you see that words are repeating, that's because that's the main purpose of that particular essay, right? So now let's go ahead and go to strategy number 3. We have 5 strategies and we will get through these. So next slide. So strategy number 3 is really find the thesis of the article, right? And that's really going to go ahead and help you figure out, what is this about? I'm reading an article on the flu, I got that, but what is it that they want me to know? And just like you have to write a thesis for your paper, the authors of all of the published works have to write a thesis for their paper. And if you find the thesis, that gets you a little bit closer to being able to summarize, being able to paraphrase and integrate their information into your writing. And then the fourth strategy that we have here is that when you're reading your articles, put your hand, if you have a text or a hard copy, put your hand over the paper or minimize the screen, right? So that what you end up doing is when you are thinking, okay, this article, these authors are trying to say this to me, that you say it in your own words. Because if you have the screen in front of you, if you have the article in front of you, the temptation to use the words that the authors are using is there, and it's a really big temptation. And so we want to make sure that when we paraphrase, when we summarize, we're saying things in our own words. So covering the page, minimizing the screen is a really good strategy. And the 5th strategy that we have, even though we're going a minute over, the 5th strategy that we have is consider using some of these templates that already exist. So for example, you can start something like the author, Birkenstein and Graff Birkenstein, and the year identified. or according to the author, or in her book, the title of the book, the author maintained that. These are some templates that you can go ahead and use. There are a lot available on the internet that you can use to help you figure out how to create your paragraph and how to start that out. And you're going to find a lot of this information. You're going to find that you want to go ahead and use a lot of these strategies from all of the articles that you are going to go ahead and use. And Jayati is going to tell us a little bit more about how to find these articles.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to introduce you to an online tool. The name of the tool is RefWorks, which will actually make your life, research life, much easier, because it does look overwhelming how you have to construct your APA citation in the references section, and how you have to insert the in-text citation in the body of your article. So there are many citation manager tools available online. Some of them are free. RefWorks is a subscription-based citation manager tool that we have, and you all have access to it from Cal State L.A. library. Next slide, please. So you all can actually create an account with RefWorks. Next slide, please. Yeah, so today I'm going to, no, the previous one, please. So today I'm going to show you how you can create an account with RefWorks. Because it's a subscription-based tool, it comes with many sophisticated features. So you can actually add your sources, track your sources, and organize your sources, and then add and create citation through your RefWorks account. You can organize all your references within your RefWorks account, and you can create different folders based on your different classes also. And at the end of the all these things, RefWorks can create your references page automatically just by click of a button. Okay, and also you can generate your in-text citation, and RefWorks can insert your in-text citation in the body of your paper. You can integrate RefWorks to your Microsoft Word or your Google Docs account. So when you are actually writing your paper, RefWorks can also work for you and make your research life much easier. So first thing, how to create an account. Here is the link to create a RefWorks account. Okay, refworks.proquest.com. So you all need to click on this link and then use your, go to this website and then use your Cal State L.A. email ID to create your account. So please remember that to use your Cal State L.A. email ID. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so once you create an account with RefWorks, there are 3 ways you can add sources to your RefWorks account. The most popular one is exporting citation from different databases, and that's a huge advantage of using RefWorks, because just to let you all know that we subscribe to over 350 databases from library, and you can use any of those databases to export citation from those databases to your RefWorks account. So I'm going to show you how to export citation from different databases to RefWorks account. And then if you already have some articles saved in your desktop or in your computer as a PDF, you have a way to import those PDFs articles to your RefWorks account. And I'll talk about that. And the last but not the least, you can also use a Save to RefWorks browser add-on option to extract information from any web pages to get the citation from RefWorks. Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to talk to all this more in depth. Okay, so it will make more sense then. So now here on this slide, I have put screenshots of different databases, namely the most important ones, like the EBSCO databases, the big ones, the ProQuest databases and the screenshot of OneSearch databases page. And I have also highlighted the areas where you can click to export your citation to RefWorks. For most of the databases, you will see there will be an export option or save option or RefWorks option. So you just need to, once you find your article or your source, you just need to click on those links to export citation to your RefWorks account, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a screenshot of your of a RefWorks page. Okay, once you create a RefWorks account, this is exactly how it would look on your RefWorks account. On the main page, you will see on the left hand side you have option to create different folders, to organize all your resources. So depending on your different classes, you can all create different folders. And for your one class, if you are using APA citation, and for your another class, if you are using MLA, no problem at all. Just by a click of a button, you can get citation in APA citation style or in APA MLA citation style. Now on this page, where you, on the top menu bar, where you see this plus icon, if you click on that plus icon, it will actually give you option to upload your PDF documents to your RefWorks account, okay? Now, right besides the plus icon, there is this quotation mark sign, which is actually your create bibliography symbol in RefWorks account. So once you click on the quotation mark symbol, the create bibliography option will pop up, and you can select your citation and then again click on create bibliography, and that will bring you to the next page, the behind, the screenshot you see on the behind, and where you need to select the citation style. You can select APA 7th or APA 6th, depending on what you are required to follow, and it will, within a second, it will generate the citation for you. RefWorks does offer citation in many citation styles, just for you to let you know. So you can select Chicago, MLA, any other citations as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the browser add-on option that I talked to you about 2 slides ago. So from RefWorks tools menu, if you just click on the install save to RefWorks, it will be added to your browser favorites menu bar as save to RefWorks. And then for an example, if you are using information from a web page, you can go to that web page, and then if you just click on this save to RefWorks button, RefWorks will automatically extract all the citation information from that web page, and it will generate the citation for you. So it's really easy, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the coolest thing that RefWorks offer you, which is the integration of RefWorks in your Microsoft Word and Google Docs account, okay? So in both Microsoft Word or in Google Docs, you can integrate RefWorks as an add-on, okay? So if you go to the RefWorks Microsoft Word, then you click on the insert and then you select add-ons. And then you search for RefWorks, and RefWorks icon will pop up, and then you add RefWorks to your Microsoft Word. So on the right hand side of the screenshot, you can see it's called RCM, RefWorks Citation Manager. It will be added as your top menu bar. Now, when you start writing your paper, on the right hand side, you can see on the sidebar all the citation you have in RefWorks that will pop up in your Microsoft Word screen. Next slide, please. Which is immensely helpful because here you can see all your citation on the sidebar, and now you have to just select the right citation while you are writing it in Microsoft Word and click on the Cite This option, and RefWorks will automatically cite insert your in-text citation and your references, which is awesome. And not only that, you can keep on adding citation to your article, and RefWorks will automatically arrange them in alphabetical order. So you do not need to leave your Microsoft Word or Google Docs. You can seamlessly connect with your citation from those places while you are writing your paper, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so you can do the same thing with Google Docs, and I get this request from my students more and more to show them how to integrate RefWorks in Google Docs. So it's very simple, just like Microsoft Word. In Google Docs page, you need to click on add-ons menu from the top menu bar, and then get add-ons, search for RefWorks, and then click on the install menu. It will be installed in your Google Docs within less than a minute. It's that quick. And once it is installed, then once you select RefWorks from your add-ons option, on the right-hand side, you will see on the sidebar all the citation. And again, RefWorks will be able to insert all your citation, in-text citation, and your references together. And you can see all your citation on the right-hand side. When you click on there are two buttons. You can click on cite this, or you can edit it. So as Iris and Letty mentioned, that you can do parenthetical citation in two ways, in-text citation in two ways, parenthetical citation and narrative citation. So you can actually choose what type of in-text citation you want to use for this particular paraphrasing style, and RefWorks will even do that for you. It is that useful. So next slide, please. Okay, I know I'm sharing a ton of information with you all. I know it is helpful, but it's a lot. So I have actually given you a link to the page where you can actually see a video tutorial, two separate video tutorials on how to export citation on RefWorks to RefWorks, and how to integrate RefWorks into your Google Docs and your Microsoft Word document. I also have a RefWorks PowerPoint with step-by-step instruction on how to export your citation, and what else you can do with RefWorks browser add-on option and other options. So please take a look at this page. And my last slide, please. So thank you all for listening, and please do not hesitate to contact us for any question. We are here to help you. So please ask us your questions. So I'll now stop and give you all time to ask us question if you have any. Thank you all. Question? Do we have any pending question in chat that I missed?
There, Jayandi there and Letty, there is a question regarding proofreading. So thank you, Anna, for finding this one for us. So the question is, does the library accept individual papers to proofread for grammar and citation? So I think maybe the question is, can I submit my paper, get grammar and citation, and then get it back, sent back to me? I think that might be the question. And so does the library do that? So sorry, Letty, in case I'm cutting you off. I do want to mention that the writing tutors, they won't do that. So one of the things that we try to do in the writing wing of the Center for Academic Success, especially for grammar issues, is that we'll try to work with you to show you, okay, maybe there is an issue, or maybe there's something that you want to improve on grammar wise. And so the tutor will work with you to figure out what it is that you want some feedback on. They'll go over maybe the convention, the grammatical convention, and then they'll go ahead and see, oh, what about this? What about that? So they'll try to pinpoint where those areas need improvement, but they're not going to go in there and fix it themselves. They will actually point things out so that you and the tutor can talk through through that convention. But they won't actually go in and then take a red pen and make all of these changes for you. So that is something that we hesitate doing. In terms of citations, we will very often at the writing wing of the Center for Academic Success, we will refer you to the student research consultants, as they have a lot more knowledge about this topic. Letty and Jayati, did I leave anything out?
No, I think that's exactly the information. So one of the things that I would like to add to that, students, is that right now in the chat, I'm adding the link to the APA quick guide. And this quick guide is the one that I showed a picture of at the beginning of the workshop. And it has specific examples for students to match their sources and sort of match them to the example. There's examples for how to do your references for APA, or in APA for articles, for books, how to handle an ebook. There's also information on this APA quick guide for how to do in-text citations. The importance of following the guides that we're presenting, the importance of kind of going to these websites that show specific examples of sample papers, of how to cite specific sorts of sources. The whole point of that is that as a student at Cal State LA, you kind of have to see yourself as like you're in training. And the more that you kind of go through those guides, the more that you're going to internalize those rules of APA. Jayati?
Yes, I just want to reiterate what you are saying, Letty, because I forgot to mention that RefWorks is a great tool, but at the end of the day, it's a machine-generated citation. So it will generate the citation for you, but it's not always 100% perfect. That's why we all need to have the basic understanding about how to structure your citation so that you can still use RefWorks, generate citation, but by looking at the citation, you can understand what's wrong within that citation, and you can make quick changes and make your citation perfect. And that's why I also strongly recommend you all to consult the APA guide or APA style manual that we have multiple copies of it at the library. Thank you.
So we'd love to take some questions, and maybe to kind of sort of generate some student questions. I want to kind of start with like, how do I handle how to cite a YouTube, or how do I handle how to cite an infographic from a website? Those are like very specific and also like maybe non-traditional sorts of sources that you would cite. So if you would allow me really quickly, I'm just going to model like how I would handle that search, because I actually had a student ask me that question. So the best thing that I like to do is I like to go to this thing called APA style blog infographic. Okay, an infographic is sort of like a chart. I'm sure you've seen them. They have, it's a visual chart that has information. I do that search. And then instead of going to the first thing that comes up here, what I'm looking for is this APA style blog. That's right here, apastyle.apa.org. This style blog is my go-to for how to find those specific sorts of questions that I'm not really sure how to answer. And you'll see from the page that there's a lot of different things that you can search for in here. How to alphabetize a, and the in APA style, right? The other blog that I want to point your eyes to, so I'm going to skip through all of these and I'm going to go to the one that's called this one right here. It's called blog.apastyle.org. This blog.apastyle.org is a blog that's created by people who work at APA. And, but this one is, you can kind of see the difference between this one and this page, the page that I showed you right before. But it's made by the same people, okay? That page and the page I showed you before. So in here, what I would do is I would type in here like infographic, okay? And then how to cite an Instagram in APA. There's one in here that's infographic. I just, I'm doing it sort of on the fly. So it's not really getting me to where I want to go. Actually, I found it. So this APA style blog is created by people who work at APA. And they have all sorts of those like little granular kind of questions. And what this person is writing about in this one is she's giving an example of using an egg, like a cracked egg, and saying that the things in the middle, book chapters, books, ebooks, magazine articles, journal articles, those are the most like sort of commonly cited types of sources. Things like a YouTube video, a movie, an interview, all the things that are falling outside in the sort of like I guess the white part of the egg as you crack it. It helps you to sort of figure out, okay, we're going to provide info for how to deal with these sorts of things. And you'll notice that for the most part, what is going to be followed are those conventions, author, followed by the title, and then followed by the format description. You would put, for instance, in the case of an infographic, you would put brackets and then the word infographic, because that describes the format description, followed by a bracket, followed by a period, retrieved from, and then the URL. So I want to stop my share because what I want to emphasize right now is that during a research consultation with a librarian, you can actually do this search together with your librarian and figure out how do you exactly cite a YouTube video or a song. Okay, but the guide that we provided for you right here, which I'm going to put again in the link, this guide handles like all of the frequently cited types of sources. The APA style blog, the two ones that I showed you, the updated one and the other one with the egg, those are sources that you can go to. You want to make sure you're going to the right website source that's coming from the APA to find those particular little questions. You can also find it in the APA handbook because we do have copies of that. So I want to ask right now, we have a minute or so to take student questions. Are there any student questions? I don't see any. Okay, well, if you have any questions, like after today, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have a question. You can do two things. You can watch the video, which we're going to have on the YouTube. We're also going to have on that YouTube the link to all of the things, all of the resources we cited today, the handout, the websites. I want to put in a plug for another thing you can do is I want to put in a plug for, there's a avoiding and understanding plagiarism, self-enrolled, self-paced Canvas guide. We're going to put the link to that in just a second. I want to say that because if you enroll in that guide, it goes through examples for how to understand plagiarism, how to avoid it. And one of the best things you can do to avoid it is by practicing your paraphrasing, which we just touched upon in this video that we presented today. Paraphrasing is very hard. It's difficult. The more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. And you can improve your skills by signing up to the plagiarism tutorial, which we just linked to the chat. And then the last thing you can do is to seek out the help that we have here at Cal State LA. You could talk to a librarian. You can make an appointment specifically with the librarian. You can make an appointment with a student research consultant to figure out, you know, where to get your articles, and maybe using some tools on the article databases to pull the citation and then verify it against the quick guide. You can make an appointment with the writing center. The tutors are going to walk you through the critical thinking process it takes for writing to make you kind of, not make you, but like get you to write those sorts of parenthetical and narrative citation sources. So with that, we maybe the last thing we can link in the chat is a link to how to find the librarian that goes with your research area. I'm gonna put that link right now. So we'll leave you with this. Find your specific librarian here. Let me just fix my spelling, okay? Because my the chat has, okay, just fix the spelling. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end. We wish you all the best in the final last few weeks of your spring semester. And look out for the next Library Lives, because we're going to talk about literature reviews, annotated bibliographies. See you next time.